Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day. Happy Friday to you. Quick look at a Solana, seeing what's going on. We're going to double check some back-end liquidation data and just kind of see, where we're at. Because when we left off yesterday, we were expecting the price to pull back a little bit further and potentially sweep that 120 to 125 level. We see here on liquidation, we can see that still exists. In fact, it's increasing with people taking late longs in the 125 range. I get that. It feels like Bitcoin's going to bounce right now, but I think it's very tentative leading into basically this is a Friday leading into a weekend, and we've seen 10 out of 11 red weekends so far this year. I don't think the statistics are very favorable there to take a long into the weekend. Anyways, we're not just gonna blindside ourselves, kind of put our blinders on and only think that one thing. There's still plenty of opportunities, but for the most part, I don't really like what I'm seeing here so far for Solana. So basically, the two previous playout charts, we can see the price action is doing one of two things. It is effectively at this point coming down to tentatively bounce off that 125, that ascending type of trend. So we got to presume the trend will hold, but once more, it's not looking super strong. So the price does end up recovering. It makes sense to short in the 130 to 135 range. This is kind of a rough estimate. Yeah, I'm just spitballing there. We're gonna double check a few things, but don't take a trade based on that one thing. I'm sure there's some people that come in here that watch the first 15 seconds, be like, "Oh my gosh, this guy just told me to short 130." No, that was my first thought. We're going to look at the charts and understand, and that can change. Okay, so make sure you understand that. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. Thanks again so much for watching. To those who always hit the like button and/or comment below, really appreciate you. Thank you for being an amazing part of my life. I mean it. Thank you. For Solana, let's take a look here. We know we're at 120 to 125. I think where there's a distinct probability that level is going to get hit here. Good news is if that level is hit, we're probably going to see somewhat of a bounce and/or interpret that as the local bottom. I do think the 110 to 120 range is a pretty solid support range for Solana based on previous highs before we exceeded that 110 mark, but also the simple fact that a lot of liquidation occurs right there. And generally, liquidation is going to pile up in support ranges. That's generally the concept. And that's exactly why market makers like to sweep those levels, because they know a lot of people are hanging out there. Having said that, though, we take a look at liquidation delta, we can see we got more people shorting than taking longs right now. That makes sense. I get it. If I was the kind of person to have caught this recent dip and I wasn't waiting for Bitcoin to kind of increase first, I probably would have shorted too. Anyways, hindsight's 2020, of course, but we look at open interest. Our open interest area of 128, that was supposed to be a support level, which held for a while, has now broken. Therefore, we can interpret that as a new resistance. That's generally the concept there. So open interest there, we can see our local point of control reflected here too. 128 is that common denominator, or numerator now, right? It's up top. So let's take a look at the daily time frame, kind of see what's going on, and double check a few things. First of all, we're below the 20-day SMA, macro descending trend. There's nothing to see here. This coin is not bullish by any stretch. Try not to misinterpret that. Heaven forbid we do break that, or sorry, no, let me rephrase that. It would be awesome if we broke that descending trend, but it doesn't mean we're just going to be balls to the wall taking longs from there, right? We really need Bitcoin to be able to stabilize and effectively continue to move up at least a little bit before we see any type of progression from this coin. So yes, it's true. We're seeing a descending trend line, and we could increase from here. We can't be naive enough to think that we're just going to take off because we broke a trend line. That's a very tentative scenario, or a very limited mindset, if you will, to think that way. All right. Anyways, RSIs, everything here on the daily time frame. Trust me on this. I look at these charts every single day. There's nothing bullish about the daily time frame. Okay? Most coins are going to exude the same behavior. I've been talking about that for a few days now. Just the general consensus here is bearish macro perspective. So we really need to put that in your mind right now and understand that, hey, cool, yeah, buy the dip, all good. But don't be one of those ridiculous persons that tries to take a long position from 126 up to 300, okay? That's not going to happen. Spot bags are different stories altogether. Add to your spot, which I've been doing myself, but don't consider a high leverage trade to the metaphorical moon. We're not in a position like that right now. We probably won't be for a very long time, if ever. Just throwing it out there. The market's changed. Since big money got involved, Bitcoin ETFs, the whole market is completely upside down now. I don't think we're going to see these parabolic kind of runs like we were expecting. Most people are, I think it's kind of naive to anticipate that. Anyways, having said that, 4-hour time frame, we're under, so let's double check, we are under all moving averages here, 128, 129, we're seeing confluence there. Significant consideration for the price going down from here, mainly because we're starting to see this shift in momentum, not only from momentous indicators, but also from relative strength and moving averages. So every single moving average is above the price action, all the relevant ones are, and it implies further downside makes sense. Now, do you just short this area here because of that? Not necessarily, but statistically, you're more likely to find success going down than up at this exact moment. You got to recognize, though, that needs to be taken with a grain of salt, because every single time there are bearish type of divergences here that seem very clear and concise, and it just makes perfect sense for the price to dump from here. It's going to go straight up. That's quite literally the market that we're in right now. So what does that mean? Does that mean everything we just looked at is irrelevant? No, there's statistical favorabilities. However, what else is a statistical favorability is for the market makers to know that we start shifting our mentality and everyone starts selling. As soon as everyone starts selling, they start buying. That's just the common term there. So my thought process lately is whenever I start taking trades, I'm not going to be taking trades off this traditional type of confirmation that has statistically and historically worked very well. I'm going to start taking trades based on improbabilities or just invalidations and manipulation. For example, we saw this pretty obvious if you saw my videos from earlier in the week, manipulation phase. Take a look at this here. We got our, basically our accumulation phase, right? That's where everyone accumulates. Okay, and then the price breaks down here. Oh shoot, we're breaking bearish. Everyone starts shorting. What do you know? Market makers pump the price action up, destroy every possible last area of liquidation and or leverage. And what do you know? Once we hit a local top, we'll come right back down again. So I've been paying very close attention to these manipulative waves, and it's a very common occurrence. If you're not familiar, I have a education section in my Discord, and this is a standard power of 3 type of scenario. We saw this happen twice so far to start the month and just again this week. Okay, so these playouts happen a lot, and these are the kind of ones you want to try to trade into, not necessarily just a local bottom. You want to kind of try to find those opportunities. So for right now, I don't see anything indicative. This is just a standard retracement, likely to recover and bounce here soon, but very tentative. So that's kind of where we're at. Anyways, last bit of advice. We got a weekend ahead of us. I don't recommend any long positions going into the weekend. Historically, we've seen 10 out of 11 red weekends this year. So I think the odds are pretty low if you're going to just be that one person that takes a magical long position to the moon this weekend. Okay? Try not to be that. If you're trading, specifically trading so you can post online how good you are, you're doing it wrong. Just some friendly advice. Don't do that. It's very stupid. Having said that, this is kind of where we're at there. Solana is not in a great position. I do personally feel like we're going to see a little bit more of a correction to the downside. It may not happen today. We probably see a bit of a fake out first and then the price pull back. So hypothetically, we see 130 to 135 this weekend. I'm going to be more inclined to want to short this coin. But I'm not going to take a long or a short right now because we're in this indecisive transitional situation. I don't love trading these kind of ranges. All right, folks, that's what we got. I hope you learned something today. Comment below if you get a chance. Like, subscribe, follow. Check us out over at BitUnix too. This is the exchange that our community uses. No KYC or VPN required. They're phenomenal. Check them out. They're really, really cool. Other than that, I just hope you have a good rest of your day. Follow us on Twitter, Telegram, or Discord. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.